All right. Welcome back to the Inting podcast. Today we got a special guest, Rocket. You wanna introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Rocket. I'm the former assistant coach and analyst for the 100 Thieves Valorant team, and just Valorant enthusiast, I guess, right now, current standing.
Nice.
But
How long were you the Valorant roster by any chance?
from the very, very beginning, I was working with the original head coach, Frost, Hector Rosario. He taught me how to be an analyst, and so we started off with Hiko getting signed, and then I've been there through every iteration from the PUBG guys to when we signed Steel and Nitro and
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Dicey Asuna, all of it.
Oh, so you've been through the ups and
Berlin.
downs.
Yeah.
I was through pretty much everything. I was up to the very end when they scrapped everybody and kept Asuna, and then this new roster, right, with Mike the coaching staff is what I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
with Mike HD and all of them, right? That's the only one I haven't been a part of since then. So
Damn.
How does one get into your position? Is it more just like your knowledge, or is it more just knowing people?
honestly, it's gonna be a little bit of both. I started off in Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a player over there, and I was decent enough and lucky enough to meet Jovi, who's now the current analyst for Optic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jovi introduced me to Hector, and Jovi's like, "Hey," because he and I were teammates over in Siege. He goes, "Hey, there's this new game coming out called Valorant. What do you guys want to?" He told me and the other teammate that we had at the time. He goes, "Why don't we go check it out?" So we checked it out, and I started talking with Hector, who was Frost, and he goes, "Hey, I'm probably going to end up being a coach here. Would you be interested in doing some work with me?" I was like, "Yeah, of course," because for every team I'd ever been a part of, I was always kind of doing like analytical breakdowns, making of strategies, stuff like that. So in my instance, it was definitely a case of right place, right time, and then I was lucky enough to be given the skills to get to where I was able to get to.
Yeah. Is it like the environment different when it comes to coaching Valorant and then Rainbow, or is it like what's easier and what's harder?
So in the instance between the two specifically, like Valorant is easier in the sense of the maps are just very asymmetrical. So like when you look at a Valorant map, there's one direction you're going to go. When you look at a Rainbow Six map, you can come in from north, east, south, west, up, down, horizontally, vertically, any way you can think
Yeah.
of going, you can break down the map. Valorant, it's a little bit more, all right, if they have the jet, then they have like the height advantage or the omen, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different in that sense, as well as the agents and the operators play out differently, but they're similar in the sense of it's the same idea.
Like the roles that they fill are.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of
Okay.
like wolves and dogs almost. Like it's same breed, just different beast.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So when it comes to coaching, so for example, like the 100 Thieves roster, like a lot of people, you'll see sometimes like Nitro when he was on Jet or an Omen, or like even one time he was on a Sentinel. Like, how do you guys discuss between each other? It's like, all right, we need you on this role, or is it more just like, hey, what are you comfortable with, and we'll try to bounce off that?
Uh, so yeah, it always boils down to player comfortability, right? You can be a great, fantastic player, but if you have no clue what you're doing on the agent you're playing, it doesn't matter at the end of the day,
It's
right?
wasted.
If you're not comfortable, it's wasted potential.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so at the end of the day, if on paper Nitro is the greatest aimer that we had at the time, right? Or they had the highest not fragability, just the ACS, right?
Okay.
If that was the highest, and ideally, like, all right, we should be putting him on Jet. But if he's not comfortable with Jet's abilities or the way to play around or the utility, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to help him, right?
Work,
He has that ACS, and most players have their ACS because they're on something that they're comfortable with. So then it becomes a discussion of what are you comfortable with, what do we think is meta for the map, and how can we fit the pieces we have to make the best comp for that.
Have you ever run into like the issue where like two people are super comfortable on like the same person, or too many people are comfortable on like the same role, where it's kind of like, well, we gotta make some compromises to move people around?
I mean, on the 100 Thief roster, not necessarily. That roster specifically, it was kind of like everybody was good enough. If they needed to go, like if Nitro needed to go to Sentinel or Steel needed to go to Entry, right? We had that ability. They all had the skill set and the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It really was just I don't know why I just got derailed. I lost my whole train of thought. I'm sorry. Give me 1
All
second.
good.
I
Take your time, take your
apologize.
time.
Can you repeat the question for me just one more time? I'm sorry.
Is it tough like if a lot of people are comfortable on similar roles or like the same role, like to balance that?
Yeah, no. Actually, in fact, I think it makes it easier because then it gives you the flexibility. Because I know something that we discussed and didn't necessarily do was like, all right, if Asuna isn't feeling a shot that day, which the man shoots his shot every day, right?
Yeah,
He's just a fragger,
man's a
right?
menace.
We'd be like, all right, you know what? We can just swap this person in that position and still get the job done, right? But now we have the higher ACS potential. As well as it makes the conversation. It made IGLing, I believe, easier for the team because now everybody knows what everyone else is doing, and they have the ability to just be like, "Hey, you know what? I see what you did there. I think this would work." Or, "Hey, you know what? If I was in your position, maybe try this because I see that there's a hole here. I'm not in your position right now because I'm entering or I'm the flex or whatever specific role it is." And whenever it came down to discussion, it always boiled down to, all right, who's technically better at it?
Yeah.
Right. And not on paper sense, but like on a, all right, if Steel can entry and Peter can entry, but Peter can't Sentinel, but Steel can Sentinel, then that's the easy fix, right?
Yeah.
Peter is on entry, Steel goes to Sentinel. So
Yeah, because I mean, you've been through the whole iteration in like the past 2 years of 100 Thieves, so of course there's been a lot of roster changes. If without giving too much detail, I know you probably can't, because a lot of people don't understand how roster changes. Like, oh, why'd you cut this person? Why'd you kick this person out? Can you give us like why it happens and like what's the reason behind it, or like how do you guys discuss about it when it comes to roster changes? And do you have any say in it as well?
At the time, as an analyst, I had zero say. And even as the assistant coach, I had some input. I had input, not necessarily say. The way 100 Thieves was run is it was the players' decisions.
So it's a player team.
Coach, yeah, it's a player team, exactly. Frost obviously was a part of that. He was part of the decision-making process. I just know me personally, I didn't have any say with any of it. When it boils down to players getting cut and players being moved, it boils down to how we're doing it at that time, how everyone's feeling at that time, and really if the players feel if somebody isn't performing to how they felt, or maybe they are just like, you know what, they're good, but maybe there was somebody better that they had in mind. That's really what it would boil down to. Is it has nothing to do with how that person specifically was doing, or if they're liked or if everyone loves them. Really, it just boils down to how the team is and how the team's feeling,
how they work with
them.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's at no fault of anybody, right? Because all right, if we were to take all the greatest players right now, if we were to take top 5 players in Valorant right now, right? Hypothetically, you would think you have the greatest team known to man. But if they can't get along, or if they all fill the same role, right?
Yeah.
What's that team going to do? They're going to become predictable. They're going to fall apart. There's going to be a lot of issues. So really, it boils down to having good players that fill the niche for what the team needs.
Yeah. That makes sense. That kind of reminds me of a team that was really good like year 1 of Valorant and then kind of fell off.
Yeah, because a lot of people like roasted Sentinel. They're like, oh, there's always needs to be a roster change, but it's always just felt like for example, they finally, after like what, a year and a half, they finally did a roster change. They cut Zons, right? And everyone was like, that's a terrible decision. But it's usually just like if the players are not liking each other, or for example, if they don't really like mesh the same way. So I was example like, of course you're probably gonna expect this, but the Eccles and Baby J situation. Everyone was so confused about that situation. Everyone's like, they've been here for a month. What could have happened in 1 month where everyone just got cut? They both got cut.
Yeah. don't know how to phrase that. I don't want to word it because I like both Hunter and Adam, obviously, and
Yeah.
I'm not here to make waves or anything. I'm just.
Was
part
it
of the
more of just like
discussion.
was it more of like the players like, hey, just honestly, this wasn't gonna mesh out. This wasn't gonna be well. We just got to move on.
It started off good. It was like we had a 2-3 week, we'll call it the honeymoon phase, where everything worked well and we thought everything was going to be great.
Yeah.
And then we got into the first tournament and we started getting into the first practices and we started really getting real pressure from the other teams.
Yeah.
And we kind of noticed it fell apart and the meshing wasn't there. So it ended up just boiling down to, you know, I don't mean this in a wrong way. I feel like we kind of we brought them in and then we just as hastily got rid of them. I almost feel like they didn't get a fair shake to be looked at, to be, determined whether or not they should be on the team. And at the same time, I don't think they got the fair shake on to be determined whether they should be removed once they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's almost unheard of because everyone was like, "Excuse me, what?" Because everyone was like, "Oh, you know what?
Good players.
Yeah, it's like, wait, like you got good players. Eccles was really like he's a very underrated player in the EMEA region as well. So everyone was like, what? Just like what happened? Because it's almost unheard of. Like people thought like, oh, maybe that's just the players hated each other. And like there's also that discourse as well, which is because we were all confused because we were talking about it. We're like, how do you like, you guys had a month, they all met each other, they all talked to each other, they all practice and try out. Like what could have happened in 1 month where they just cut it all out? So we just, of course, we didn't know the situation. We didn't understand. So we didn't like bash at 100 Thieves, but we were just confused more than anything, like how everyone else was. So it was hard for us to wrap our head around because it's like, imagine they just get like, for example, Sabrosa goes to Sentinels and they just like, oh, you know what? Never mind. They just cut him instantly.
Yeah, and just like a month later, like, oh, you know what, Sabrosa, appreciate it, but go ahead and head home, bud.
Yeah.
Especially
now, I can understand the confusion. I can understand, the kind of like, wait a minute, what, and then obviously we brought in
Bang and JC Stanny.
Bang and JC. Sorry, I know them as Noah and Sean. So that's why it's confusing in my brain. We brought them in, and then people kind of got excited again, and it's kind of like, okay, well, you just brought in 2 more fraggers, and how are they going to work off of, I guess not fraggers. We brought in really good potential to the team, right? And I think everybody was kind of like, well, how's going to Bang mesh with Asuna? Because they technically fill that entry
the
fragger
same role, yeah.
Right? And then that's already with having Ethan, who's relatively just the all-around, he's decent at anything you put him at, right?
Yeah.
And he already has really good high gun skill. So it really just became trying to figure out how does everybody fit. It was literally like we got a brand new roster. It was like, how does everybody fit here now? Because now we've got all this potential with people that are, I'm not going to say they were worse than the Nitro Steel roster, but I will say we had more flexibility with what could be done when we had
that makes sense.
Steel, which is nothing against either Noah or Sean. They're both excellent players. It was just a matter of, unfortunately, we got rid of 2 people that could literally do anything, and then we got 2 people that were good at a really, really good specific spot.
Yeah.
So then we had to move everything and mesh everything, and it just, the whole time, in all honesty, it felt like we never got our feet planted in the ground. It always felt like we were kind of on the back push, and we just never could get good footing to get somewhere where we needed to go.
So do you guys ever feel like you guys rushed it? Like just rushed the whole process? If from the second the Baby J situation all the way to just cutting everybody, leaving Asuna, you felt like that whole process was rushed and it didn't get like time to like marinate and really like sit down and like see like what we could have done. It's like, hey, or like what you saw, it's like, hey, with the Baby J and Eccles, something could have really went down. We just maybe did the role differently, but we could have done a lot of damage with this.
From where I sat as somebody that was there to specifically assist Jovi with the process and then assist the players in any way possible, as well as give analytical breakdown and help develop the strategies.
Yeah.
Yes, I personally felt like everything was rushed. I will say the Baby J and Eccles situation, I do believe that was going to be unavoidable because I feel like the signing was rushed.
Yeah.
Personally, that is personal opinion, personal belief. I feel like it was unavoidable because I felt like it felt like the team, they just wanted the roles filled. They just wanted the spots filled because they'd been empty for a good bit, and then it's just kind of like, all right, tournament time's coming.
Yeah, they just want to be back in it. Is really
we needed players, and they, it's all unfortunate the way it happened. I know, I feel for both of them. It's just really unlucky.
So,
but yeah.
Yeah, another question that could affect that because yeah, of course, Eccles, he's from EMEA, so you guys essentially like imported him to come play for NA. Do you believe like more and more throughout the years of Valorant? You know how in League, you'll see in League like you'll get
Whole
LPL,
team.
LEC, and all that like from other regions come play in NA. Do you feel like Valorant and NA, they should avoid that and just try to grow talent in within NA, or do you think importing is a fine idea? From a coach's standpoint, of course.
See, it's tough because from a coaching standpoint, right? Normally I'm looking at a piece of paper, right? Normally I'm looking at a spreadsheet, I'm looking at something, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we looked at Adam, we looked at Eccles. He's an IGL. He fills what we needed. Bring him in, right? Yeah. Ideally, bring him in. He brought everything that we needed on paper. However, now you pose the question of, is there a language barrier? Luckily, there wasn't with Adam. But you also run into, there's going to be cultural differences, and there's going to be, you don't know if this person's going to mesh with your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, until you bring them over and bring them in, you can't really get a good read on them. Because if he's trialing from EMEA, he's not going to have great ping, right? So there's always going to be that excuse like, oh man, if I was there, it would be better. Or, oh man, I'm so good. Like, is he only so good because he's got this ping advantage, right? And this is just using Adam as an example, not saying that's what happened or anything, but I think that's what gets posed whenever you look at importing people over. I personally believe it's good because I think it gives all players of all regions a better shot at being an actual professional. Because then it gives the skill gap, right? If you have the skill and you have the ability, then by all means, you should be able to go to where you need to go to perform and play at that ability.
Yeah.
But if you get locked into your region, right, then I don't think we're ever going to see a true team at its fullest potential. Because you're just bringing in feeders. But there's pros and cons to both sides of it.
No,
I like that. That was a good question.
Yeah.
that was a great question. I like that one.
Yeah, because I know that's like kind of ruining because I watch League, so I've been watching a lot of League. I've been watching for the past few years. I don't play it, thankfully. I just watch it.
Save that mental a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been watching it, and then like every time there's for example, like Team Liquid, their whole team is not NA based. Like for League, everyone's like, oh, so this is the LEC, but in NA. So it's always like that question. It's like, should we even is this going to go the route of the League where they're just going to import players from other regions instead of just actually try to grow NA talent? Because it's not that common anymore now in the League where like you'll barely see a real NA talent. They'll just import it and just throw a lot of money and hope it works.
Yeah.
And just throw money at it. I mean, it could. Valorant is young enough still where who knows, right? League's been around for at least, I think, 2 decades now, right?
A decade.
A decade. But Dota's been around for longer. So
Dota's also been
MOBA
the MOBA
genre,
scene.
Yeah, has been like about 2 decades, I guess.
I think with Valorant specifically, it's still young. We're not even into year 3 yet. We're only 2 years deep. I think for right now, until more money and more tournaments, obviously, I really believe the whole COVID-19 situation really put a hindrance on the growth of Valorant because obviously not being able to do LANs, not being able to do tournaments similar to how CSGO would do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really kind of killed the fan base and the willingness and wantingness of people wanting to come to Valorant. but now that all the lockdown is kind of coming up, I think you could see that. I think in the beginning, I think for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 years here, you're going to see they're going to be growing the talent. But then eventually, once the game is old enough, you don't have to grow it anymore. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of teams, plenty of tournaments that the players should already be a little bit seasoned already as is.
Mm-hmm.
That now it's just like, okay, you're either good or you're not, right?
Yeah.
And growing that team is going to become less and less, I won't say viable, but less and less seen, just because it's just easier to go be like, hey, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars every month to come play for me because you already have the skill and you'll get more skill as you play with us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
because I know T1, they signed Munchkin from Crazy Raccoons, and then everyone was like, you just brought someone from like what was it? I think
isn't that Japan?
I think that's Japan. I'm pretty sure that's Japan. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's Japan. But everyone's like, then that's already. I mean, he probably knows good English as well, but that's already good. That's a huge cultural and language barrier right there in itself. So everyone's like, I don't know what they want because T1 is trying to push for the franchise, like everyone else is.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see like them doing that, and then it's like, it's funny how nobody ever says about Exet when Depth. He's from the UK, and nobody ever talks about him being like from here, coming to NA. So it's always interesting to see that. But when it comes to franchising, who do you think? Because I heard NA is only
exactly what I was about to ask.
Yeah, because NA, as of the rumor right now, they're only getting 6 slots. That's the rumors right now. So who do you think is the 6 teams you think is gonna be in the franchising? There's some no-brainers and there's some like maybes in there as well.
Man. Obviously, I think Optic's going to be in there.
Yeah.
There's just no way Optic is not going to be one of those franchise spots. It's not. They're top 6. They're too consistent. They're too decent. Something drastic would have to happen to that team in order for them to fall out of that top 6. Because I think even on their worst day, they're still top 4. So. See, this is a tough question because like right now you can look at it like I just pulled it up because like it could just be who's down right now because they're just having a bad go of it, right? Or do you just pick somebody that's hot? Like I could literally just be like, yeah, FaZe Clan and Evil Geniuses because all of a sudden they've been on a hot streak and they've really showed really great potential, right? But is that going to stay? Are they only hot and fresh because nobody's really been able to get a look at them until recently?
Yeah.
Personally, I am going to stick to the guns with Evil Geniuses. I believe Evil Geniuses, I think they're really working something really good. I like watching them play a lot lately.
They're fun.
They are. They're really proving and really showing out that, given enough time, given enough work, anything's possible. You can really, it's anybody's game. FaZe Clan, I don't know. I think they have a lot of skill in the players individually. I just don't know if that's going to be enough to carry them to keep them into that top 6.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to back 100 Thieves. I was a member there. That's not biased, but I am going to represent them a little bit.
That's fair.
I think with the squad they have, Asuna, Bang, Derek, I think you give that squad enough time to mesh and get together. I think you're going to see 100 Thieves make a comeback here, and I think if they don't make it, I'll be surprised. In all honesty, I think they have enough talent and enough veteranism from the coaching staff alone.
Yeah,
that's going to be insane. I think they have that. I'm also a little bit of a Guard fanboy, so I think Guard is going to come back. I think we're going to see Guard pick their heads up and show out. I mean, that's technically 4. I don't know. The last 2 slots, it's really
up in the air.
It really is, because like, who knows what's going to happen with Sentinels? Who knows, like, maybe Goes Gaming's going to come back and they're going to go on a little bit of a run again. Like, it really, a Crew could do something. Version 1 could do something. Like, there's so many just sleeping teams right now that I don't know if maybe they just they got figured out and they don't know how to change the pace to make themselves a little bit less predictable, or they're just not feeling it right now. I don't know, but there's a lot of sleeping giants right now, and I think there's gonna be a brawl for this top 6 slot here.
So we were talking about Sentinels just because of tens. Do you think Riot is going to favor orgs that have a lot of influence, have a lot of money, and also a lot of fans to be in franchising, or do you think they'll be like, hey, you know what, this team is good, and I feel like this is gonna go how it is, and we're gonna pick these teams as is?
Yeah, because if you think about it, like Sentinels for the most part was like the face of VCT for like a good year, just because like the tens thing and whatever. So like, do you think that because of stuff like that, or like how 100 Thieves was really hot for a while, like do you think that is a factor in, even though they're not performing today, do you think their previous accolades will get them there?
I don't know. I mean, if we're talking specifically, how to put it, what I would like to happen is, when it comes to franchising, I think it's whoever has the best ability, right? I don't think it should matter. But if franchising works like it's worked in other games and other sports, it's going to go to who has the most money. And then what's going to happen is, right, in that case, right, it's probably going to be Optic. You're going to see Optic, 100T, you're going to see Sentinels, you're going to see, I think XSET is one of the more top orgs as well.
Probably like Cloud9.
Yeah, Cloud9 is one of the top orgs.
You can say TSM,
Energy, TSM,
but like TSM
hasn't been good for like
been
years.
In Valorant. Or, I mean, they've been in Valorant, but nothing notable.
Yeah, but they're still an org with money, right?
Yeah.
If you go if you go to Rocket League, you go to League, or I'm pretty sure their League team was doing pretty decent. I don't remember necessarily off the top of my head. There's a lot of esport going on right now, but their Siege team is one of the best Siege teams. Like, they're an org with a good bit of base behind them. So what you're going to see happen is, let's say the Guard or Version 1 or even Evil Geniuses, because I don't think Evil Geniuses is as big an org as it used to be. If those teams are best by ability, the franchising is going to go to the people with the money. The people with the money are going to buy the best teams. And then that's how it's going to filter out. That way, at least you keep the players. At the end of the day, it boils down to, this is a business. The players need the money, right?
Yep.
They're here. They have the skill. They are athletes at the end of the day. The money needs to go to them. The concern needs to be about them. And obviously, everything else, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
The only way they could really sample that is if Riot were to step in and be like, all right, hey, we'll help you, we'll either give you some funding or we'll help you find the ability to get the funds, whether that be through the sponsorships or however they're going to raise the money to do what they need.
Yeah.
I know, like, if you look at Rainbow Six Siege, just because it's the game I come from and I have a little bit more knowledge base on that, they currently do franchising. In order to be a franchise over there, you have to move your team to Las Vegas. If you're in North America, your team goes to Las Vegas. And that's where all the teams are based out of, because that's where all the seasons are played. And then obviously you got to be able to fly them out, which means that as an organization, you have to be able to pay a certain amount of money to the players. You have to be able to host them a team home and then work from there, right?
Yeah.
So an org like Dark Zero, which they've kind of been in Valorant and not in Valorant at the same time. They're here, but they're not here, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They haven't really done anything notable, in my opinion. They have a team in Rainbow Six, right? And now this is technically an org that I wouldn't say is huge, but they're good enough that they can host a team, and Siege was like, all right, yeah, we can, get you guys in there.
Yeah.
So when it comes to franchising, I think it's a good thing personally, but it's got to be done right. And I do think it's going to go to the orgs with I think it's just going to go to the orgs with the money to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, the way the world turns right now is around the money. So whoever's got the money is going to be in there.
Yeah.
So, do you think, just like League, because League is held in LA, do you think it's going to be Valorant, the franchising, like the format is going to be held in LA as well? Because a lot of people, like, to be frank, a lot of the pros don't even like living in LA. They wouldn't want to move to LA for what, 6 months or so and just have to play there, then have to fly back. They would rather move to a better state, like, I don't know. It's also money, family, all that as well. So, do
There's a
you
lot that goes with it. No,
yeah, yeah. Because, like, for example, the league players, they have to leave their families. They can't even see their families for months on end. Even
Yeah.
especially if they're in like prime time season and all they have to wear a scrimming for like 6-7 hours a day, all that. Do you think the players should have a say on where they should be playing as well? Because a lot of players, even they've publicly said like, no, I don't want to move to LA to have to play. I'd rather move to Texas or something like that.
I'm gonna say no, and the reason I'm gonna say no is you're being paid a gross amount of money. Go collect the money, do what you can for your family, bankroll it, and then once you got enough, just clean your hands, and then once it's all said and done, move wherever you want, spend the time with who you want.
Yeah.
But when you're here, when you if you are ever, and I mean ever, given an opportunity to A, go explore some new place, and B, you're being paid for it, do it.
Yeah.
Why not? Like, don't get me wrong, I've got a mother, I've got a dad, I've got family that I love to go and see. It sucked having to go to Texas and go into the team house. It was an extremely cool experience, but it does suck knowing that your family's back home and you do get a little homesick. I get that tenfold, but at the end of the day, you're being paid to do something cool. So
Yeah.
just do it and enjoy it while you can. And then eventually, because eventually down the line, 2-3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however long you decide to play and then bail out, you're going to be able to go back and you can spend all that time you want. And now this time you've got a little bit more experience under your belt, a little bit more money. That's my personal belief.
Yeah.
If we're talking about specifically being fair, LA is like, that's a lot of money. It's
Yeah.
technically one of the richer cities. You're spending a lot. Like, the price of living there is not by any means better. And that's why like, if you go and look at Texas right now, Texas per
Square foot
per county
county.
has lowest the lowest rent per capita, or per capita being brought in.
Yeah.
Which is why I think a lot of people want to go there, is because it's cheaper living while still having the ability to have all the like the fiber internet, the Verizon internet, AT&T, all this top gigabyte internet and all that, while
Yeah.
still being able to live cheap. And I think that's what the argument comes, is it's not a matter of going to LA because LA is necessarily bad. It's just LA is expensive and it's just kind of tough. But personally, I just think, if I'm getting paid $1,000, like several $1,000s a month to play a video game that I love to death,
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere. I'll just send me there, and especially if they're paying for it. Sure, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll play. Hey, Mom, I gotta go. I'll call you every other day, or every day, or whatever whatever you want to work out, and just I'll be home in 4 or 5 months here, and then we'll go out. We'll do everything that we got to miss. So.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of fan bases, because a lot of people are new to esports when Valorant came out. So, like, of course, like all of us, we've known esports. We've come from CS:GO, Rocket, Rainbow Six, and League.
Yeah.
We understand how it goes. We understand the struggle. But a lot of players don't. A lot of people, especially fans, don't understand that it's mentally taxing, very mentally taxing for the mind. For someone like Hiko, he's been doing it for like 15 plus years. That man like has a mental fortitude. So it's crazy. Like, that man has been able. The man is. It's crazy how he's been able to be a pro at the highest level for such a long period of time. Because of course you've been with the players a lot and you've seen them outside of scrims and all that. Can you tell the people that are listening like how mentally taxing it is, or if you have any stories you want to tell us about it that could help a lot, like explain how crazy it is?
To start, I'm just going to start off. I think where the disconnect with this is people don't understand that esports is an actual physical sport, right? At the end of the day, if you were to go and look at professional baseball, professional football, any of those, right? Their mental is just as important as their physical. which is why when you look at video gaming as an esport, I personally get upset when people don't take care of themselves physically, because if you don't take care of your physical body, how do you expect to maintain your mental? And if your mental goes, you have nothing, right? Which means your mental fortitude, as you brought up, is extremely huge. Because you're going in, you're thinking at a high capacity, you're thinking not only about what you got to do, but what the other team's doing, what your teammates are doing, and how they're playing, right? You've got to think and process a lot. On top of, if you mess up, is your job on the line? If you all mess up, is everybody's job on the line, right? There's a lot of mental taxation that comes to that. And then when you are taken out of that scenario where, normally, let's say you have a fallback. Let's say you're somebody that's just, you've always had your family. Family's got your back. Obviously, this is not something for everybody, but some people rely on themselves. Some people they go like, hey, mom, dad, sister, brother, whoever, best friend, hey, you want to go hang out for like an hour? I got to vent to you, right? But now you're not in that scenario anymore. All you have are your teammates, right? It's extremely mentally taxing. You're far away from home. You're out of your comfort zone, and you're playing your heart out, and you're trying to play not only for yourself but for your teammates, and then even furthermore for your fans, right? Because now you've got all these people that love you and they love watching you, and they're building this up, and everyone's, all this hype and all this is around it. It is absolutely 110% mentally taxing. It's not easy to any degree for anybody. But I will say, maintaining, bringing little niceties from home, right? So I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not allowed to talk about, but I will say activities and hobbies that the guys did if they were at home, they would bring to the house and to the boot camp, and that would keep them rooted. As well as hey, you know what? We did really good tonight, even if we lost. You know what, guys? We played our hearts out. Let's go get something to eat as a team. Let's go de-stress. Let's go talk. Let's go do whatever we got to do and just work it out, right? And I think at the end of the day, that's what helps not only bring the team closer together, but it helps de-stress and it helps unleash that mental a little bit, because there's a lot to intake. It's a lot to think about and process. And if you let it get to you, I think that's where you see some of these players break.
Yeah. Have you ever had, is there any stories you want to tell us about these players? Because everyone just thinks as soon as he's going to get out of bed and just start fragging out. That's not that he has a routine. He has a lot of things to do. Do you have any stories you want to tell us about how these players are humans as well? And it when you first saw it, it was oh, these guys they can't just wake up and frag out. These guys are humans. If you can say.
I mean, I'm gonna keep the legends alive, right? They're superhumans. These guys, they wake up and they shoot straight every time, hit every shot. They're just excellent at everything they do. But I will say, to get to that point, we would have rituals, right? I mean, all right, we weren't sponsored by the coffee company. I'm not. We would get Starbucks. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it because they're not sponsored by it. They would get Starbucks. Yeah. But we started the morning off all right, guys, let's get some morning coffee in us. Let's frappuccino, hot chocolate, whatever you need, right? Whatever we got to do to get it done. Let's get that, right? I know if players like to read, or they would exercise. Ethan and Asuna and Hiko, they would all wake up in the morning, go to the gym, come to practice, right? They would wake up and they would wake up their bodies. They would get the fresh blood pumping, make sure that they were ready for the day. Then we get the coffee, work from there. I don't know if I'm necessarily answering the question as you asked it, because again, it's not my lives, right? I'm personally a believer if what they do is their personal choice, and if I don't want to just be out here and be yeah, so and so would do this all the time. They're oh man, that was something that was just for me.
Yeah. No, I get
that. So I don't want to go blow anybody's spot up like that. Yeah. But I will say, they get up, they exercise, they stick to a routine, they stick to a schedule, and more importantly, they stuck together as a team and they were able to talk to one another. Yeah. We get dinner, we ate lunch together. the coercion was there, and just little rituals at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Jokes like just jokes. Like what was they some energy drink. I never drank the stuff. G Fuel.
Yeah.
Oh, the G they get their G Fuel. They be making jokes about how many, like, yeah, dude, I'm just, you know what, I'm gonna say screw, I'm gonna do 3 pumps of G Fuel today, right? Like, it was always just some kind of camaraderie, whether it be just about the little stuff to keep the guys together.
Yeah.
And that's what I think helped. If that doesn't make you human, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing I could really say is, you know, like, we're, at the end of the day, we are guys, so like one person would fart and we'd all laugh, right? Like, like,
No,
you
no,
know,
I get that.
Yeah.
that's about as human as you're gonna get, you know, like.
Yeah. Because
I like it.
yeah, it's always like, it's always nice to see, because like a lot of people is like, oh no, these guys just don't wake up and just start fragging out. Yes, they're definitely more talented and they put in the work, but they do have routines. They take care of their mental, they take care of their physical, because essentially it's part of it. Because if you just don't go work out, if you don't go outside for a walk at least, or a run, and you just like get the blood flowing, like, you're gonna be a slouch and you're gonna be like a gremlin.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you don't take care of your physical, your mental is going to deteriorate, and on top of it, you got to remember that your physical is a part of it, because you're an athlete. You are an esports athlete,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think people really need to get that grasp that this is something that is taxing on both the mental and the physical. All right, you're sitting in a chair, you're moving. It's not in the typical sense, because obviously you're sitting down. So I think that's where a lot of people lose, like, the whole, it's not a
Athlete
real
part of it,
sport.
Yeah.
Yes, but at the end of the day, you're using more mental than a normal athlete, because you're processing 10 times what a normal athlete would have to process, because not only is it an evolving field that you're playing on, but it's evolving players and evolving metas. It's not like, imagine if football was like, all right, guys, you know what? This season, brand new ball. Here we go.
Yeah.
You know, like, how are you going to play around that? How are you going to play off of that, right? Like, they don't have to worry about that. The sport has been the same for 100 years now.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And yes, going outside, getting a walk, vitamin D, making sure that you're eating the proper food, right? Like, don't just be putting garbage in your body. I personally stress this a lot. I mean, obviously I'm a little thick, but
No, you look great.
eating properly, hydration is huge, right? I think people really get lost in this whole, like, oh, we got to drink G Fuel, I got to be drinking energy drinks. That is fine.
Drink water.
Drink water. For every energy drink you drink, you need to counter it with hydration. Otherwise, you're dehydrating your body, and that's why, like, you'll hear people go, "Oh man, all that caffeine's wearing off. I've got this headache." Well, you have a headache because you just blasted through whatever water you had in your system. You need to keep it flowing.
Yeah.
Your eyes, the blue light. There's a supplement you can take. I don't remember it offhand because I don't have anymore, but it's good for your eyes so you don't burn your eyes out.
Yeah.
Right, it'll stop the wear and tear and the weariness. Like, if you're an avid gamer, if you're somebody like, you're going to bed every night, you're like, man, my eyelids hurt, it's because of the blue light from your screen.
Yeah.
All right, so then, like,
Blue
the
light
exercising is
filters.
huge. Yeah, right, please. It all plays a huge part. I think to be an esport athlete, you need to be more than a regular athlete, because everything comes into play. It's not just your physical. Your mental has to be at peak as well, and your mental can't be at peak if you're not keeping the physical at peak. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it's good to see from someone like who has actually been in the esports field.
Yeah,
Who's been doing that, because you guys hired someone. I think his name was Edward. Like, what was his name?
Edward
he was like
Cleveland?
yes, he was like this like the team psychiatrist, and like he was help everyone's physical, and he would like bring everyone like down if they were having a stress day. How important do you think now? Do you see more and more esports like orgs implementing that into different esports now? Because like you'll see in traditional sport like basketball, like for me, I'm a huge basketball guy, so like I watch that, and they have a lot of psychiatrists. They'll have like therapists there. It's like, hey man, if you have a bad game, talk, and then we'll help you out. Because back in the day, it's just like you and just a bunch of friends. If you guys don't know, all right, you move on to the next game. It's whatever. Yeah, and like people don't
suck it up.
suck
Pretty
it up.
much.
But now it's like, okay, like you're playing for a lot of money, you're playing for your job, and you're playing in front of thousands of people, because if you do bad, you're gonna get shit on Twitter for some reason. So
Always on Twitter.
it's part of unfortunately, like Reddit, VLR, all that. It's just part of being a big influencer and being that, of course. So do you see like more and more orgs implementing that? Because I feel like you like the earliest I've seen was Astralis in CS:GO. They implemented that and they just started winning like crazy because their mental was in the right place.
I think. So I didn't personally work a lot with Edward. I do think he helped where he could. It just becomes a problem of where does that person sit in the hierarchy of the team, right? Because you don't want them. They should just be there to de-stress. You don't want them telling them to, like,
what to do. And
yeah, like it just needs to be, because I feel like where the breakdown happens is the higher up you go in esports and the higher up you go in any sport, right? Is if you and I were friends, right, and we were playing a game for fun, and I could be like, all right, why in the world would you just do what you just did, right? We could have that conversation. It wouldn't matter, right? And we could get mad, and then we come in the next day, everything's fine. As you go higher and higher up, if you get on somebody's case, and then next thing you know, they're not talking to you anymore, and next thing you know, the team's slowly falling apart because now there's money on the line. Now there's actual reputation on the line, and it becomes harder and harder to talk about these hard things because people are so afraid of what's going to happen to them or what's going to happen to the team, right? You don't want to go destroy somebody's mental, whether it be on purpose or on an accident, but at the same time, you don't want to be stuck in the same rut. I personally believe, I do think it's helpful, but I think it needs to be to the extent of that person is there to bring the team together and not to be like, hey, look, be mad, be pissed off, feel what you're feeling. Just don't take it out on your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's done in a healthy way. Like, they need to be bridging that gap. Because I feel like in esports, us as gamers, we're all competitive. And then when you're competitive, sometimes you're not thinking about the nicest way to say something. You're not thinking about how loud you are. You're just like, you're getting your point across. And a lot of people take that wrong sometimes, and not everybody's built for that kind of thing. So I think being able to distinguish and do that is what needs to be done and what needs to happen. One of the coolest things I saw was it was like a up and coming organization. What they did is they paired with their local college, and their local college is teaching therapists. They're for therapy, and as a way to train and as a way to help these college kids, they're like, hey, why don't you come talk to some of our esports people, and if they have issues, you can talk to them. So it was like they were helping one another by, we'll give you people that you can talk to and work with, and you'll get the experience that you need for when you go out into the real world and become a professional therapist or physician or whatever it is they're looking to do.
Yeah.
I just think, I do believe it helps, because I do believe, again, mental is huge. In esports, mental is everything, because like you and I right now seeing each other face to face makes the conversation easier. I've got something to look at. I can look at your eyes. Obviously you can't, if I'm looking at your eyes, because I'm occasionally looking over to my other monitor, which is fine, right? But it's a matter of, like, we have that I've got a face now. I've got some, like, if I were to yell at you, I would feel bad, because like I could be able to gauge if you're taking it bad or you're taking it poorly or if you're taking it great, right? Which is like, a lot of people don't understand that is huge, right? Human nature is huge. Being able to see what's going on and how somebody's feeling really plays into how you want to talk to somebody. So I think having that therapist or somebody like Edward, I think, is really big, especially in the up and coming field. I don't know how that niche is going to come into play, but obviously I don't know how the money works through the organizations, but I do think it's beneficial at the end of the day. Unless if your team can't handle it themselves. Obviously there are some teams where
it's great.
They've got that one player that's just the therapist for them, or there's some teams that are just like, man, I love you guys, and they're just good, and that's just it, everything's perfect.
Yeah. So having chemistry is definitely more important than having like just a bunch of cracked out players.
Yeah, the synergy is huge.
Yeah. Because everyone's like Yeah, I think it's the same thing happened with like TSM. It's like they just had a bunch of roster changes, but I feel like just like this iteration of TSM has been the best in years since like their blast premiere and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the best, but it's more like these guys just you can see it as well. These guys
Just having
enjoy
fun.
playing with each other, and like they're all not all everyone is like a top 5 player. Like I don't think so anybody on that team is like a top 10 player, but it's just you see them and they're like, wow, these guys know each other so well. These guys lived with each other as well. These guys know how to play with each other. So it's always nice to see because everyone looked at this new iteration and was like, man, this is no shot this team is better than the Hiko, Steel, and Nitro roster. But then you'll see them play and you're like, wow, these guys like enjoy each other a lot.
Yeah.
Being able to understand, I think the greatest thing in any sport is when you're, especially from a coach perspective, is when you're watching your team and like let's say I'm watching a student's perspective, and all of a sudden, like let's say if they're on split, we're pushing A. Normally, a student pushes up A ramp, or if he's raised, he's blast packing up to A heaven, or whatever he does, right? But now he's got Bang, and he's comfortable with Bang, right? And he knows Bang loves to go up ramp, or he loves to go heaven. And now he goes, all right, well, if he's doing that, I'm going to follow him, and I'm going to shoot whoever tries to shoot him. And he just naturally, he doesn't have to say a word.
Yeah.
He just knows what Bang's doing, and he goes, if I wanted to kill Bang, where would I be? And then he goes and he preemptively goes and stops that guy. And now Bang's allowed to go and remain fluid. And now Peter's even more fluid than he originally was. And now the two of them have this whole synergy that was never there before with the previous players because they never were able to build that.
Yeah.
That is one of the coolest things to watch when things just work and it's just meshing and going. It's literally, it's really, really cool.
Yeah. It's a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clockwork.
It's perfect. It's I'm sorry, I get a little giddy because I just think of like because you can see it even in like some of the Valorant games that are in these VCT matches. You can just see like really well executed stuff. Or when like let's say like oh my gosh, how did they clutch that? Well, they clutched that because person A went, you know what? I'm just swinging this guy, and this other person went, I know what you're about to do, and just covered him.
Yeah.
And it just worked because they hit their shots and they didn't have to take that half a second or 2 seconds to be like, what are you doing? I don't know what I'm doing. What are you doing? Right? Like,
Yeah.
it just went, which is, it's always beautiful. It's always good.
So as we enter the tailgate of this tail end of this interview,
tradition question.
one more question before.
There's two.
There's two. One more, but just an extra question before we get into that. Do you see yourself coaching again? Do you want to coach again as well?
Yeah, I coached in Rainbow Six. I coached a little bit in Valorant. I'd done analytical work in Valorant now as well. I like it. I love doing it. I've been trying to get back into the scene to work as either a coach or an analyst. Just get back to work, just because I miss doing it. You know, it's fun at the end of the day. I know a lot of people are like, what do you mean just watching endless hours of a game and looking at numbers and movements? And what do you mean that's fun? Like, at the end of the day, it's pretty fun when you get to be like, hey, guys, by the way, if you go here and do X, you're going to absolutely break this team, right? Like, it's cool seeing that in motion when it gets done. But me personally, yes, I've been actively looking to get into coaching, and because I believe I can bring not only the expertise, but I can help pull a team together and be able to make something happen. But yeah, I personally would love to be able to coach again.
I got you.
Nice.
Okay, so we have traditional questions we usually ask every interviewer, okay?
Okay.
So
hang on one second.
Take your time. You're good, man.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. So first question. So that's the first question. So do you know what a bidet is by any chance?
I do know what a bidet is. Yes.
Okay. Do you own one by any chance? And what is your opinion? What is your opinion on it? Because these guys grilled me for it, but I need your opinion on it.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I feel like it's cleaner. I feel like it's going to feel interesting on your butt. Like, I feel like it would feel weird. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like it would feel weird.
I'm in the same boat as you.
The only argument I can ever see making for it is hygienically it's better. you're not putting your hand down there. You don't got to wash your hands afterwards. Technically, you still should. But I definitely, me personally, I feel like that's gonna feel real awkward on your bum. Like,
Okay, I need to make because I have
Thank
one.
you.
I have
Thank you.
one, and we've asked almost every single interviewer and they've all said like, yeah, no, it's great. I love it.
Except for the crew.
A crew, Lincoln.
A crew Lincoln.
He thought it was a dessert.
He's like, is that like a dessert or something?
He thought it was a dessert. So, yeah, I just like to mention it.
We're
So
like, no, that's the thing that shoots water up your
ass.
asshole.
It's a traditional question we usually ask most guests. Also, do you drink boba by any chance?
I do drink boba. Not as much. I don't get to anymore because I live in a small town currently. But when I did, I was almost every day. I was getting some form of boba.
What was your boba order?
What's your go-to? It's like, nah, you know what? This is the order.
So I like the milk teas.
Okay.
But I've got two. So when I do milk teas, I would do the mint milk tea, double boba, 25% ice, 25% sugar.
Double
boba.
Damn,
Oh yeah,
okay.
you got. I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it. I like the balls. I'm sorry. The honey balls are just really good. Nobody clip that. Nobody take that wrong way, please. But
pause.
The other one, I like the balls. The honey balls are just delicious. You know.
That's probably one of the best answers.
That and the other one I would do is it's called a butterfly tea, but it's just like supposed to help your metabolism. And it's called a green Iceland, which was green apple and like a raspberry, and it was just really, really good. It's delicious.
You got extra balls in that too?
No, just regular balls, and 25% ice, 25% sugar, just to keep you good to go and geared.
I like it.
That's one of the better
That's probably
answers
the best answer we've gotten for that.
Yeah, I like it. All right. So because we're in the end, if you want to promote anything, if you want to make sure like, hey, I'm getting back into it, all that, an update soon. If you want to promote anything, you're more than welcome to.
I mean, I've been applying to several places. I tried to apply to Immortals to be the head coach for their female team. I haven't really gotten many responses back. I actually emailed Raucus about the analyst position, trying out for that. Honestly, at the end of the day, if anybody has anything or knows of anything, my Twitter is at OhImRocket, OhImRocket. Feel free to just DM me and be like, hey, idiot, apply here, and I'll probably respond. But I appreciate you guys for having me on here and the questions. This was actually a really good time, and I can't wait for the episode to come out. I'm not really sure how podcasting necessarily works, but
it comes out. We record
Wednesday.
We record Monday, upload Wednesday. So you'll see this on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, dude,
We'll
that's fantastic. Dude, I love it. I'll be sure to help retweet that. But yeah, at OhImRocket on Twitter. I'm just trying my best to get back into the scene to be a coach or an analyst. Help a team out. I know I can help them. So
yeah, especially for LCQ, almost running around after Masters. So
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a blast. Definitely keep an eye out. I think you'll see me.
All right,
awesome.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Love you.
Later, guys.